Hey everybody, welcome back to Leosophy. This is the third in the tea series. Now I'm going to be talking about oolong. So oolong is my personal favorite, as you will soon see why. But let's talk about how they make it first. Because I mentioned black tea is fully oxidized. The enzymes that naturally exist in the tea allow a process of oxidation to take place, and it causes the tea to become dark. Green tea, on the other hand, is not oxidized at all. The enzymes in question are destroyed through a heat process, and it makes the teas not oxidized. So they're just as green and vibrant as they were when they were picked. Oolong is the in between. What happens with oolong is the tea leaves are partially oxidized, and sometimes they're even deliberately bruised to encourage oxidation, rolled around and all this stuff, and then it's arrested through heat. So right off the bat, you're going to see something interesting because how oxidized is it going to be? It might be oxidized almost to the point of being black tea, or it might be arrested almost to the point of being green tea, and every iteration in between. And that's why I love oolongs. Well, it's one of the reasons, is because you get a ton of diversity with oolongs. And diversity, in terms of tea, really is its greatest strength. No joke. It's great to be able to pick between florals and grassy and smoky, and just all these different flavor profiles exist among oolongs. It's easily the variety of tea that you could see the most range of different flavors and aromas and even colors. That's another interesting thing. With black tea, they can range between opaquely black like coffee to almost pale yellow like a Darjeeling. Whereas with green tea, it's very, very, very green or also pale yellow. With oolongs, you got a full-blown rainbow of colors. In fact, in China, which is where almost all the oolongs are grown, really China and Taiwan is where you're going to get oolong tea. They call it blue tea. And it makes sense because when you look at the leaves, there's kind of a pale, I would call it more like an ash color, but I can kind of see where you might, infer that it's blue. And similarly, when you steep it, it's the most common color is kind of an amber color, like a reddish amber, I guess you could say. So I can kind of see where you could get blue out of that, sort of. But when it comes to getting introduced to oolongs, I highly recommend getting a Taekwon Yin, or maybe even a few Taekwon Yin or Taekwon Yin. It's one of the cheapest and most readily available oolongs, but that doesn't mean it's bad by any measure. In fact, I pretty much always have to have some iteration of Taekwon Yin or Taekwon Yin in my pantry. It's a must-have. And some of them, it's kind of like pizza. I've never had a bad one. Even the really, really cheap ones are still pretty good. And then the more expensive ones, or just plain higher value ones, some of them are cheap but still really good, are just terrific. And I also recommend, Taekwon Yin tends to be a little, not grassy, but it's a little floral, it's a little delicate, it's a little, I guess I would say that Taekwon Yin is right in the middle. It's right in the middle of where the oolong spectrum is. Whereas if you want something ranging a little closer to black, Big Red Robe is great. And if you want something ranging a little closer to green, but his hand is really good. All three of those, highly recommend if you're interested in getting started in sampling oolong teas. Those three are really, not only do they taste good, but they will give you a really terrific insight into the range that oolongs have. Getting a few different versions of all three would even be a good first step if you've never had oolongs before. So all that, really good. Oolong also tends to match really well with savory dishes, and that's another reason I like it, is I can have oolong with pretty much anything. I could have oolong with tiramisu. I could have oolong with barbecued ribs. It's good with just about anything. It's good in the spring. It's good in the winter. It's just a very versatile, because of its diversity in flavor profiles, tea. So yeah, cannot recommend it enough. And one of my favorite things also about oolong, as you can see in the picture for the video, they tend to be big leaves. Green tea tends to be small leaves. Black tea tends to be small leaves. Oolong has what I like to call oolong salad in it. And it makes it great for like a gaiwan, or just taking a picture of a teapot like in the picture, because I just love seeing those big leaves unfurled once it's done steeping. And similarly, another wonderful thing about oolong is the magic that happens when you multiply steep it. There's times where I've had an oolong and I've steeped it, and it's smoky and almost like a lapsang souchong, but nowhere near that intense. And then I'll steep it again, and it's more floral. And then I'll steep it again, and it's more light and delicate. So it literally goes from like kind of a black tea, kind of a green tea, kind of a white tea, all in that range, but not really being like any of them. It's an oolong. So yeah, it's a terrific tea. That's the one I most recommend to people if they've never had loose leaf tea before, just experimenting with it, because it's just an absolute delight. So yeah, that's all I got for oolongs. Like, share, subscribe, keep asking questions. Bye.